Something behind us. Yeah. Okay, let's go. We are live, though. Somebody sent us live.
Yeah,
Um.
I just hit it on.
Oh. Okay. We are live. Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning
Morning,
across
Mr.
the
Today is the
U.S. Good
28th of
afternoon.
June,
Yes.
Yeah, I'm John Kessler.
and it's an exciting time. See,
Yeah.
for me, I'm here. College of West
Oh, I
Africa.
see
This is
them
our
here.
homecoming
Uh,
weekend, our
oh, wow.
convention, the
CWA.
Alumni Association. So I'm chilling in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, outside Philadelphia.
Outside
So
of Philadelphia. Okay.
just take that little commitment to set aside this hour, hour and a half to participate in this
Hmm.
very, very important show that we have for you today. So,
Good, good.
um, basically, we are talking about value chains today, the agricultural value chain specifically, and we want to break down a value chain, the different components that people look at when they talk about value chains. Um, then how our own sectors,
Hmm.
our subsectors in agriculture, cassava, the rice, and then we're gonna do a little bit of comparison with other people out there, the different categories, high level categories of a value chain that people look at, and just see how we compare with other people, where we are and where the room for improvement is, and some of what our Ministry of Agriculture is propounding as solutions, and see how they can get us where we want to go. So again, if you want to come in with any aspect of the intro, please feel free to do so.
Well, I think the topic today is very, 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 very appropriate. What is the state of agricultural value change as it relates to Liberia? We've got a lot of things taking place in our economy, a lot of things taking place in government, a lot of things taking place, a lot of moving parts. Not bad, not that they're bad moving parts. Like you and I talked about, we've got the moving parts with the yellow machines. The yellow machines are coming into the country. Tractors are coming in. How does that fit in with supporting the agriculture sector? We've got energy challenges and things like that. We've got a new team at the LEC. How will their leadership fit in to supporting the value chain? Because again, part of that value chain is also preservation. It's preservation. So when you manufacture, when you produce, you do value add, especially for food. You got to preserve it. You got to preserve it. So energy plays a major role in that. And we also have roads. We've got roads because again, if you don't have roads to new markets, how then can you move manufactured or value added products to those new markets, or how can you move farm produce from the farms to the manufacturing and value added center? So a lot of moving parts, and how again, as you always talk about, what role is government going to play? What role is government playing in this? Is government playing a role? Does government have the vision to see the opportunities that are ahead of us? Then you got job creation. I'm sure John will tell you that the biggest issue in Liberia today is unemployment.
Yeah, yeah.
Unemployment. So the value chain creates an opportunity for new jobs to be created for young people that represent the largest voting bloc of the country. So those are all different things. John, what do you think about it? The agriculture value chain is
Yeah,
the
like you rightly said, it seems to be like challenging Liberia because we have majority of our operators are still on the standby, not employed. Uh, it's like some challenges have been done, have been made in the concession area. So the government need to look at that direction.
Wonderful.
good.
So, a lot of times we throw around the word, value chain, but we have to make sure that people, kind of understand what it is.
Hmm.
Um, from my perspective, and I think from the general perspective, the two words, value, right,
Hmm. Hmm.
and
Mhm.
chain,
Yeah,
right?
cheap. Yep.
So value is what something is worth, right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
does it mean to you? And then the chain is a series of things. So when we look at the value chain, we're seeing at each stage, how can you add something to an original product to make it worth more? We have given the example here of cassava, right? You can reiterate
Hmm.
that example, because you, I think you did a good job of dealing with that, particular aspect. The raw cassava, what it's selling for versus the one that just packaged in a plastic bag and cleaned up in the store.
Like you're talking about the Famian tab
No, no, no. Just the raw cassava, for
or the raw
example,
cassava?
in
Okay.
Liberia, we probably sell it a 25-kilogram bag, which it may not be 25 kilogram, it could be more, but it's stacked up in a 25-kilogram bag and not by weight. That's one of the factors in the market
Hmm.
that affects the producers versus that same cassava just peeled and put in a plastic bag. In America, it sells for $8 to $9. So that's value addition, right? Just the bagging before you get to the processing to get to gari, to add other ingredients. So the value chain by itself has like probably 7 or 8 key steps. There's somebody in the background.
Am I in the
No, go
background? Yeah.
ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead. Go
So
ahead.
yeah. So as I was saying, the value chain itself has like 7 or 8 steps, right? So for any one product, let's say um cassava, what we start with, you start with the input. Where do you put in, right? You got the land for sure. You got to clear the land. You got the seeds. You got the fertilizer. You need tools, and you need trained people, right?
Mm.
Um, and the cassava sticks, the variety is very critical because nowadays they got faster growing models, and sometimes some that take like a whole year, 9 months to 12 months, some of them now 6 to 8 months. So the variety, and whether it's industrial or edible cassava, and how we process, all of those things are important. Then you got to actually farm it and be able to produce something, right? That's the second stage, the production piece. Then after you farm it, you got to bring in labor again to harvest, to be able to dig that cassava, whether you're doing it manually or you're doing it with some level of automation. You got to dig the cassava out. Then you got to aggregate it. That means somebody got to bring it together, whether it's transporting from point A to point B, or whether the farmer is doing farm gate selling where he's right at his farm. And like we did probably like a month ago, an aggregator in Liberia, a processor slash aggregator came to our farm to pick up some of the cassava. And it was an exciting moment for us, being that it was our first real production and sale. And then that person who aggregated may not be the processor. So they may have an aggregation point, but then the processor may have to come pick it up, or the processor could be that same person who would turn that raw material into gari or something else that the market is ready for, right? It could be flour, it could be starch, it could be something else. Then now the selling of it, the packaging, the branding, and then being able to get it into the market to sell. That's like the let's say fifth stage. Then after you get it to the market, now I'm talking about the domestic market because
Mm.
exporting is another stage, right? To be export ready, there's certain international standards, whatever processing facilities has to meet. Um, the International Standards Organization that sets standards across all different sectors, requires at least the 9001, which is the quality management to make sure that all the aspects of quality that comes into food production, are present in that particular facility, that food when consumed is safe for the consumers. So 9001 is something that I don't know which facility in Liberia has it. I know not too long ago, the NIC, National Investment Commission, put out a bid, for somebody to come and train some of our people in the sector, some of the players, some of the actors, to be able to, um, you know, get the 9001 certification, and also for them to get the 22,000. That's the full quality management system, where you really introducing, um, certain processes, certain standards into food production. So that's required to get the goods exported. And I don't know that we do have facilities in Liberia who have received those certifications and are recognized by the FDA to be able to, package and export goods like that. Then we come to the retail. Huh? Go
Go
ahead.
right ahead, Ava. Go right ahead.
Yeah.
I'm listening. We're
Then we
listening.
come to the retail where, how you sell those things, whether it's supermarkets, whether it's street vending, whether somebody put in their suitcase to take to the US, or to some, diaspora location where our people who want to consume our products are kind of, congregated. So then finally, the different support services around the whole sector, right? Whether it's the access to finance, because sometimes you may be able to produce it, you may not be able to harvest it because you got to pay people to harvest, or you may be able to aggregate it, but you may not be able to add value, right? Then transportation around it. We're talking about farm to market versus farm gate, where the farm to market is farmer taking his product to the market, or to the distribute, or to the aggregator or harvester or processor. And in the same, I mean, the aggregator or processor. Then in the same token, we got to look at what government is doing, what are they facilitating, what kind of support, what kind of loans are the bank offering. So it's not just a simple thing when they say value chain. There's a lot of things that have to go into place, and those chains have to be linked, because you know how chains are, right? They are linked. So it's very important that we understand where we are coming from when we talk about value chain. Then the other chain word is the supply chain. That is basically the flow of goods and products. That's the supply chain. And sometimes there can be disruption, right? Let's say, for example, people are expecting on an annual basis a certain amount of, cassava chips or cassava flour. But after the farmer, produces it, there's an issue with the harvesting, there's an issue with the aggregation, there's an issue with the processing, whether people not available, because a lot of times they say people lazy, Liberian people lazy, so so whether it's a transportation that affects getting that product or whatever it is, but that's the supply chain, how you move the goods from one level to the other level. So it's very important we understand those value chains, and now we got to try to understand the players and what they're doing. So, Akina, if you want to chip in before.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, thank you so much for going through that. I think one of the challenges that we have in Liberia is that we don't we don't really bring understanding into critical matters, right? And the reason why I say that is because, I mean, if you think about what you just explained about the value chain, that was a very good explanation, because you did your explanation along with the meaning and the definition of a chain. A chain is linked. That's why it's called a value chain. You look at any chain is made up of individual links that are all linked together around your neck. Okay, so that's how, I like the way you broke it down, that the way you expanded upon it for everybody and anyone to understand how important it is. It's a value chain, and every chain in the link is important to allow the link to, I mean, to allow the chain to withstand any stress on it. I mean, the beauty of the chain is in the connection of the various links. You get my point. So, and that's where we as a nation, we as a people, that's where we are challenged. We don't have, high, deep, wide and long understanding on critical issues, critical matters, such as the agriculture value chain, how important it is for our country, our nation, our people, because, like we've always said on this show, we are an agrarian economy. The foundation of our prosperity, our growth, and our industrialization is not on anything else, it's on agriculture. Agriculture is key. And if we can wrap our minds around this, and then we can understand the importance of the value chain as it relates to agriculture, then we will truly be able to benefit, you see. But again, like you said, in the value chain, I mean, the way you explain it, from the inputs, right? The farmers on the farm, the key to the farmer on the farm is not just the land, but you talked about fertilizers, you talked about the seeds, you talked about the technical competence, BWI, University of Liberia, almost every vocational training school, every college, every university in Liberia. Which department has the most amount of students after political science? It would be agriculture.
Agriculture students, yeah.
That's exactly right. So Liberia does not have a shortage of agriculture technicians or agronomy students, or graduates that can be brought into the system as what, as technical specialists or subject matter experts in agriculture, to work in the counties to support the farmers, because they're the key part in the value chain, right? If you don't have the input, then don't expect an output. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's the simplest
I
way to say it.
mean, if you take an empty gallon of water, an empty gallon, and try to put gas in the car, no gas going in there, simply because there's nothing in there's nothing in the gallon. So something got to be in the gallon first. So that's the key. So because whatever comes out has to be done from the input side. So again, what is government doing? Does government understand this? Do they understand that we're sitting at a place? Here it is, it's rainy season. Now you talked about the roads. You talked about roads. Roads, play a very important part in the value chain, because how are you going to access different markets? How are you going to bring things that are grown from the input perspective in LOFA down to the processing plants? Okay, so if you say you're going to process up in LOFA, does LOFA have the energy infrastructure to support the manufacturing and the value added? Okay, you say, okay, they would build a solar plant, no problem. But whatever you're producing in LOFA, is it enough to feed? Maybe you're producing so much that LOFANs can't even buy everything that's being produced. So that means you're going to have to bring it into Monrovia, which is what, almost 50% of the Liberian population. So how are you, if you don't have the roads to bring that, we should do value adding LOFA, how do you get it to Monrovia? So you're back to the problem of the roads. You see,
So
and so again, I mean, I like the way you expanded on it, because again, once we understand how important the value chain is, that's where investors now can look at different segments in the value chain to say, you know what, I'm going to focus my attention on this portion. I'm going to focus my attention on this portion, so forth and so on. Go ahead, either Ava or John.
Yeah, and one of the major challenges, like you correctly said, like the road,
can
because
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
yeah,
you.
yeah,
We can
loud
hear
and
you.
clear.
We can hear you. Loud and clear, Ava. We can hear you. Are you there, Ava? Go ahead, John. Go ahead. Go ahead. You were saying something.
So like you said, more especially
Mhm.
when it comes to road connectivity,
Mhm.
from marketplaces to the farm, it's the
In
difficult.
Pennsylvania, but it sounds like you guys can hear me. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Ava. We can hear you loud and clear. We can hear you. Your
Okay,
video.
wonderful. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. Now you're back. Go ahead. Go ahead, John. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. So like we talk about the road, it's one of the
Mhm.
challenge in Liberia. You talk about low fat. Now before then, people used to call low fat bread basket, but now the difficulty it has now to bring the product to the market, that's difficulty. So in terms of value chain,
Mhm.
it comes to so much challenge or challenges we made because you have to do a road. They also talk about manpower. You talk about students in the university. How can they be empowered to go back to the farm to make sure that Liberia can no longer import? They can rather do their own agriculture year to get a full year. So it's challenging, more especially when it comes to roads. Yeah, the roads are not good to get, and from Lofa to Morovia is like a distance that you need to cover. And those market coming from Lofa, like bitter ball, pepper, coming from Lofa, with the condition of the road, majority of them sport along the road, more especially Balano. When the beginning of the town, is sport along the road, so like they will sell it for a cheaper price than
Mhm.
what they wanted to sell it at first because of the damaging it may cause from the road.
And yeah, and
Yeah, but Joe,
you bring up a very interesting point, Ava, before you come in. The thing is this: why should Lofa, one county among 15, take the burden of being called the breadbasket?
The breadbasket. That was the name back then.
But I mean, the bitter ball that grow in Lofa can grow in Cape Man, can grow in Bapolu, can grow in Bomley. So why
True.
should Lofa take the responsibility of growing pepper for the whole country? The
Like
same
during
pepper
those
that
days,
grows in Lofa. No, no, forget
during,
about those days.
during
Forget
those
about
days,
those days. We are here
what
today.
was saying now,
Mm,
like for Cape Mount, people focus
mm,
on Cape Mount for Farmino. If you want quality Farmino, you go Cape Mount. If you want coconut, you go to the southeast. If you want billabong pepper, you go to the north side where you find
mm.
lofa and alongside Nimba in Banga. So it was decentralized, but like you're saying, why can't we now leave the past and look at the present to the future? Why can't we do it in our county? Everywhere you have soil that can bring out products. If you got the red sea, the red soil, you can get the product. So why can't we all now just leave lo-fi alone and just go in our rural country, do
That's
a back
exactly right.
garden? If we do that, just imagine when everyone go back in their county and just do a farm, a Pacific farm. You look no need to export. To import food in Liberia if we go back to the soil.
Okay. Go ahead, Abba. You were saying something. Go
right.
ahead, Abba.
So yesterday, well, there's a project in Liberia called Retrap, right? Then there's some other ones, Star P and other things with different acronyms. But Retrap specifically, I raised the discussion about it in a couple of chat rooms we are in. There's a chat room network of Liberian farmers. There's another chat room, the National Association of Cassava Coordinating, in Liberia, some NSSC or something, right? But the good thing is, the Minister of Agriculture and there's other members, all the people out my door making a lot of noise. I'm in a hotel. Hopefully, you can hear me clearly. But basically, when I raised the issue and went to the website, for me, I always talk about data, 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 right? And the fact that sometimes no baseline is established for any one indicator, whether it's a basic indicator or key performance indicator for any kind of project, if that baseline is not established, you have no idea where you're starting from to where you're going to. That's why data collection and understanding where the particular measurement you're trying to do, where it is at this current time that you're starting from, and how you progress to the target that you want to set. Let's say, for example, we're doing only 1 ton of cassava in a hectare. That's the average in Liberia. That's our production. But international standards is about 20 tons per hectare. So how do we move progressively to get towards closer to what even regional? Regional in Nigeria could be 10 to 12, maybe 13. How do we get to those regional numbers, right? Or the world standard numbers? So once you don't know where you're starting from and you can't lay or it's hard to set a targets and it's hard to measure yourself in terms of your improvement year over year. So the retrap project, which is the R is rural, the E is economic, the TRA is transformation, and the P is project. So that's RETRAP, the rural um, economic transformation project. And the idea is that all these smallholder farmers, to help them increase their production and to be able to provide, obviously you increase your production, you increase your sales, your agricultural livelihood increases, you and your family benefit. Plus, on the value chain side, how can we improve the products and access markets? So that's the overall objective of the retrap project, right? And we're using that as just this case study here. And they have been doing some things, some people have benefited, but they don't have a lot of testimonials about, what they've done. And then the project also is part of its infrastructure, building specific roads and stuff like that, but communicating the project to people so that they can really understand what the project is about is something that has been missing. And I think just across government, not this government alone, but previous governments, the communication of what these key projects that we are borrowing significant dollars for the example, the overall retrap, the debt would be more than 200 million. It started, one is 85, starting, I think it's 55 starting up. The next one is 115, and then the third one is 85. So there are three phases or three trenches of money that's dedicated to this project. So how do they get the maximum benefit of this project when don't even understand the different role players that we saw in the value chain?
Hmm.
There's a significant number of role players, starting
That's
with
exactly right.
people who sell the inputs to the farmer, to the aggregators slash to the
Yeah.
harvesters, to the aggregators, to the transportation within the sector, to those who will add value, all of those things. Different people have different roles, different targets have to be set. So in a lot of cases, from what I've seen in terms of the reporting and stuff, there's a lot of gaps. And then the retrap funding that was going to
Hmm.
be accessible to many of these
Hmm.
smallholder farmers as well as the aggregators slash processors, and those other people in the value chain who are
In the
touching the
value
agriculture
chain.
sector, they have not been satisfactory for them. So raising that discussion now, we're able to get an understanding of, some things. Not satisfactory, right? Because there's still challenges like what we've been talking here. But
Hmm.
at least the some of the officials of government were able to step out of their comfort zone maybe and engage. For example, we got 288 agricultural machines and implements that the Chinese government, I believe, has donated to Liberia, are supposed to be coming in August or September. And we have been talking about, regionalization of the
Hmm.
agriculture effort and
Hmm.
trying to have
Hmm.
some comparative advantage in terms of the areas that can produce certain things more effectively versus other areas. So the minister, joined the conversation, which was very interesting, and some of the issues that people were raising, and some people took it really personal because this is a chat room where people who have applied for some of the retrap grants are in, other people who have received some of the grants, they are in these chat rooms. And so I was calling people who have received it to give some testimonials, right? To say what the impact is, because just looking at the report and it's saying it touched 15,000 farmers does not say how those farmers were touched or what's the impact, what's the benefit, what the results. We don't get that. So being able to tease out some of this information from different people to say where they were initially and where they are now, but that 200 people and maybe four or five giving testimonials, that
Yeah.
ratio is not
That
adequate
ratio is terrible. It's terrible.
where we
And you
are, right?
see, yeah, and you
So
see, Ava. Yeah, let me jump there. And the thing is this. The thing is this, right? Like you said, I think these projects I dreamt up. The people initiate. I don't know whether it's I'm not close to that process. I'm not connected to that process. But when you look at the way, that we have a saying in Texas, if it walks like a duck, if it swims like a duck, and if it quacks like a
like a dog.
duck,
It is.
it is a duck. Okay. So what am I saying? You come up with these projects, and these things are not well thought out. You just mentioned about all of these tractors or agriculture machines that are coming from China, right? Okay. If they would be here between September and August and September, number one, these are machines that are coming from China. Number one, do you have and it, like you use the word regionally, right? So I'm sure that the leadership, the president, to the person that serves as his pleasure at the Ministry of Agriculture is looking at probably putting these things in all the different counties. Does the different counties have the technical competence or the young people trained to repair and service these machines? That's the first thing.
That's part of the process. That's what the Chinese are offering with this, right? They're
Yeah,
supposed to
yes.
provide the training and then be able to do that transition, to
That's
our
it. Yes.
people.
So have you built the warehouses or have you built the locations where these machines will be placed? Have you
They are,
built
I believe they are in the process. So those are good questions. I'm going to elaborate on that, but those are good
yeah,
questions to bring in.
and you're not building them in Morovia. You're building
No, no,
them
no.
in
They
every
decentralized.
county.
I think they got 5 agroecological zones, I believe. So
Agrological zones, whatever term they apply to it. Okay. I mean, and probably when you start talking about agro or ecological zone, that means there's got to be a crewman over that for him to have come up with those kind of big words to put them together. Because I know, my mother was a crew, my other crew both left book, and the bigger terms they use is a confirmation of how many degrees and how educated they are. So agro ecological zones, it's got to be it must have been initiated by some kind of a crewman. That's just a joke. But anyway, 5 acre agro zones across the country. Is that going to be enough?
well,
Do you have the young people trained to service those machines?
so
Do
let
you
me
have
let me
all this?
just
I'm coming. Do you have the spare parts in place? Because those things are important because you don't want to put these machines into service to start doing the farms. Like you talked about data. Have you sent out the agriculture technicians or whatever way you want to call it, agronomy specialists, to start identifying these small stakeholder farmers? Then have you started to identify the off takers for what? Because again, like we talk about the value chain. The man who's processing the cassava may not be the man who's planting the cassava. You get my point. Those are two different people, but they are mutually connected based on what is being grown. You get my point. You see? So if you go and you build out the input and you have not built up or established or identified the off takers, look at what you've created. You planted so much cassava on the market that you've got nowhere to take it off. So what have you actually accomplished?
and
You see?
that's an issue right now in a discussion. We in a chat room where these guys they don't
Okay.
have the
Okay.
capability to
So
absorb the
you
level of
you
production of
understand what I'm
cassava.
saying there? You understand what I'm saying? So you planted so much cassava across the whole country, and there's nobody that will buy the cassava. So then you haven't identified. This thing is a whole process that takes almost a year to set into motion because you got many moving parts, and they all. If you remember, you're doing your school, your high school reunion today, this weekend, right? There was a very very important math problem we used to solve in math class. It was called simultaneous equation. Two equations you have to solve them simultaneously, and that's what we have to do. You got several things moving simultaneously you have to work with in order for the proper output to come out. And this is where the challenge lies. There's no connection. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. Everybody's doing everything in abstract and expecting the output to be very successful. But at the same time, these are great opportunities for Liberians to invest in the value chain so that we can get the desired output. Go ahead, Alva.
Yes. Um, so there's this back and forth going on, right? And for me, that's why I said this project need to have a communications component to it,
Yes, yes,
where
yes.
you can actually have some media around what you're trying to do,
Yeah,
what you have done, and then what's coming, how it can be articulated better for the farmer, the lay persons to understand what's in it for me. Because the with him is for most people the key thing. I don't care
yeah,
how most people say, oh, we for the masses won't be together. Most people are first thinking, what's in it for me? Where can I
yeah,
benefit? and you got to give people something for them to appreciate. But
Yeah.
at least, with the minister being involved in the discussion going back and forth, a lot of people are probably understanding better what the expectations are. Yes, people will grumble because in these things sometimes it's competitive. You can't get to everybody, but you got to get value for dollar, right? You expect
Yeah.
that in
Yeah.
these kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
projects because these are national debts that we have to
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
later
Yeah.
on. And where do you get money from? Probably from taxes, right? If all these farmers can be elevated, that they productive, that they can be into a system and they can be held
Hmm.
accountable to be able to pay the taxes from the revenue, then you
Yeah.
increasing government overall pie to be
That's
able to,
exactly right. Yeah.
offset some
Yeah.
of these
Yeah.
debts.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you don't have that, then it becomes more difficult. But yes, the
Let's expand this a little bit, right? I like this topic, right? So value chain, fine. Okay, then they've got the five ecological, agroecological zones, whatever the case is. But I mean, think about this. You're more connected into all of the rules, laws, or that have been passed through the House and the Senate. In 2018, former president, we had signed a very important law and put it on the books. It's called the Local Government Act. You remember that law? That law is very important. Why do I like that law? Because that law, if you look at it, that is something that we in Liberia have always needed. Decentralization. Decentralization. If you look it up, it's called the Local Government Act. If you go to Google and you search for the Liberia Local Government Act, was signed in 2018, we have brought it on the books. Very powerful law. If you look at how that law is supposed to work, right, where through the administrative branch of government and then setting up county management leadership team from the superintendent, deputy superintendent, the administrative leadership of the county, the effective management of the county, right? Okay, so let's think about how this agriculture project can be integrated with the LGA, with the Local Government Act, so that every county is empowered through agriculture to create jobs, industrialize the county, and build an agricultural-based economy in the county to locally produce. And like John Kessler, you were talking about what? Food security. Am I right? You were talking about food
yes,
security in the
yeah,
county. So again, I was talking about the simultaneous equation. So if you look at the Local Government Act from the perspective where it creates a county management team from through the executive branch of government, where he appoints that whole management team, right? And then you take this project, World Bank funded project for the agriculture and transformation and all of that, and you layer it into that, along with the Chinese government providing all of these yellow machines and tractors for the counties. Just imagine what we can do at the county level to increase the input, and then we can, and then like we always talked about, I think we we're talking about it last week. Okay, then you can build upon this model, something that Liberians enjoy every year, called the what? The county league. The county league is sports related, but what about a national fair county, agriculture fair, where counties can compete on the production of maybe 5 or 10 key crops in every county? Who produces the most? Who gets the biggest? You get what I'm saying, John? You see what I'm
Hmm.
leading with this? So
Yeah.
why should we leave the county meet only for sports? Why can't there be an agriculture fair nationwide to see which county produced the most amount of cassava, the most amount of mangoes, the most amount of cocoa, the most amount of coffee? List the crops. And then that county management team through the Ministry of Agriculture in a decentralized manner can make the investments in the county, support the small farmers, and then we can finally make our smile and achieve and acquire the what? The data from the counties. You get
Like
what I'm
like
saying?
like like
You
you
get what I'm
saying,
saying,
yeah.
Alba?
But
yeah, Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Philip, like you saying, like during former president, we are time, if I
Mm-hmm.
can recall, we have the agriculture fair. It was at Kari in Bon County, and where
Mm-hmm.
farmers brought their products to Kari, and people went and bought. And I think the farmer they was smiling because it was very colorful. So why can we now bring it into our setting where every year we can go to carry, or we can find a destination where all farmers can bring their products, They will go there and get it from them. I think that would be colorful for them.
It doesn't have to
So
be. You see,
they do
I
have
mean,
the agriculture fair. Go ahead.
mhm. No, what I'm saying is,
I
it
don't know
doesn't.
whether they have one this year yet, but over
Mhm,
the
No, no.
last couple of years, even
mhm.
under the Georgia government, what her name, um Madam Janine Cooper, under her leadership, there was an agriculture fair because I went to at least one.
Yeah,
I
in one
believe
township.
last year there was one, and there were a couple of guys in some of the chat room who said they have won awards for certain things. So, but complaints always come from these things, right? Because take for example, we have the transportation issue. We have the cost for these people to come to these fairs, and when
Hmm.
they do come, they bring their products. Sometimes government has to take that responsibility to buy it off them,
Yeah,
because taking
sometimes
it,
it
if
be
they
all
don't sell it there, taking it back again,
it
it's a
will get
challenge.
damaged. Yeah.
So I would see it coming from the regional level first or the county level,
There
right?
you go. There
And
you go.
and based
Yes.
on the
Yes.
structure, it's doable because you got district what they call it, Denny. They got district extension officers, they got district
Hmm.
agriculture officers, then they got
Yeah.
them at the county level, right?
There
But
you
whether
go.
they are efficient and they're doing the work, that's another thing. Because again,
That's
without
another thing.
data,
Yeah.
you cannot
Yeah.
really assess the competence or the work of these people the way
We're
you would
back to
like to.
data again.
So
You
those are
got
Back
it
to
some of
right.
the
data
You,
again.
challenges in
Yes.
the
yeah, you
sector
got it right.
that
You got it right.
exist.
You got it right.
So the structure is there to a large extent, but the research component is missing too.
It's missing. Yes.
The lady that was on last week, she was talking about bio security. That
Yeah.
aspect is very
Very
limited, and
important.
people are
Very
still
important.
crying for fertilizers. Also, they are
Hmm.
crying for
Hmm.
pesticides. They are crying for the
Animal
seeds that
feeds.
they got
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
plant
Hmm.
themselves and stuff.
Hmm.
And there's some people who have the perception that the farmers themselves don't want to spend any money for themselves. They don't want to invest in what they do. But then people say they don't have access to capital. So what comes first? And
The
this is
chicken and
where,
the
when you dig down
egg.
into the data, you can really get some of these live understanding of, you talk to 10,000 farmers and say, where are you getting your money from to invest, right? If they don't get it from the bank. They don't get it from, crowdsourcing family or other people, or something that probably like a retiree from the US who got
Mhm.
some 401k or some savings to put into the agricultural business. So you don't understand where the money is coming from. You don't
Mhm.
understand where the holes are. You just know people ain't got money. And it's hard to solve a problem that's just general like that. So those are some of the problems. There's some structure is there, and this whole regionalization thing is something that can work, right? So, for example, the 288 machines will be kind of distributed, and supposedly there will be a truck and a load bed, because oil is one of the key things, fuel for those machines.
That's
Very
Hmm.
exactly
expensive,
storage and the
and the
storage of the
typical
fuel.
farmer who is 20 miles from this place may not be able to buy the fuel for that machine to leave from that decentralized location in his community or his
Hmm.
district to drive to him to clear his land and then to come back, because somebody got to pay for that, right? So
Hmm.
how they structure this stuff and how they do it, like the minister was, being asked questions this morning, and you are able to say, oh, it will be, decentralized. There will be a flatbed and a truck there to take these things to people. So the whole, how should I say, the efficiency around it, it has to be something that's driven by some kind of algorithm, meaning a system.
Yes, that's
Because if farmer
exactly.
A is 20 miles from farmer B and farmer C is only 5 miles, how do you coordinate if
Coordinate. Yes.
the clearing of each of those three
You
areas is not
yes, that's
something you
exactly
should do
right.
in
Yes.
one
Yes.
day,
Hmm.
right? And he made some sense, right? The government will invest this first stage and make sure that it can reach to these different farmers and other people. And then they expect that sustainability can be built, that the next time the farmer will have something to invest in the project. But I personally, I'm not sure the math or
It
the cost analysis or the feasibility analysis has been done to determine that one year
no,
is
no,
adequate
no, no,
for,
no.
for that to happen. So that commitment from government to get people to a sustainable level, And sometimes you will fail. You will not be successful in everything because sometimes the variables are so many. The farmer himself may not even be productive enough to be able to work with you to get to that level, right? So that other farmer may fall on the wayside. But there are more people that if you hold their hand properly, you teach them some basic fundamentals of business, how they can manage their books too, because that's a part of it. If you don't understand what you're putting in, what you're spending during the process, how much you're getting out, and what you can use and versus what you can put back into the business, that's a problem. So, there's a lot of variables working, and we need to, as a people, be able to understand these things, break it down to the lowest level, that those who are being impacted, they may not have that educational exposure part of it, but they have some practical thing. You got to match that the theoretical side with what they do. I mean, there's just so many examples of how our people just function just on their own actual engagement with the soil or with the agricultural process versus the technology and innovation that are out there that changes the approach and could be so much more improved if they could apply it. So there's a lot of work for the minister and his folks to do with this the machines coming in or the retrap project or any other agricultural project out there to be able to touch these people more effectively. So,
And
right.
I can say this, Abba. I can say this. Okay, if you look at the past trends, because all we got to go on is past trends, right? As we engineers would say, give me a couple of points and I'll plot you the graph. Okay, if we look at the past trends as to how things have always been done in Liberia, I can assure you, I'm not going to use the G word for guarantee. I can assure you that this process is not well thought out. Because in order for this thing to work right, as you were saying, it requires project management professionals to be part of this process. Any PMI person will tell you fundamentally implementing something like this takes almost at least a year to 2 years to properly and effectively plan out and put into place the structures. Because in order for this thing to work out properly, you need to effectively decentralize it. Because like you, I mean, that's why you need the local, you need to put it into place with the local government act that already creates the administrative management team in the county, that such a project can work along with that team, so that the local human resource capital, or the SMEs or other people you need at the county level can be recruited, properly trained, and distributed. Because by the time the tractors show up, you need to have the training people set up. You need to have the places to store the tractors. You need to know which farmers are where geographically. You need to have all of that. You even need to plan the routes. You're back to roads. Which road will the tractors go on to find to hit farmer number one, farmer number two, farmer number three. Just the issue of the storage of the fuel, the diesel, the loss prevention in that. Because if you don't properly store the fuel, somebody will open 2 or 3 gas stations selling that fuel. Now you're back to losses.
While they even gotta go, they'll sell it around the road. But anyway, that's another issue. No, but
Yeah,
everything you're saying is factual, is related.
yeah.
Being able to have some control on this process and clarity in terms of how you get from this beginning point to the end point is very critical.
This is not
And
something you can do in a year. No, because
no,
all
it
you
takes
will
it
do,
takes time. I really
it
believe it
takes
takes
time.
time.
And the fear is, right? The fear is that, if you introduce politics into something so important just to produce results, it would not be good. Because if this was to lead, if this is almost like a 1.5 year effective planning, getting the right people in the counties, getting young people recruited in the county, giving them tablets. That you went to the Chinese for the tractors. Why didn't you get 1,000 data tablets to give it to all of these people in the county? Then why didn't you connect with Lone Star or Orange to connect, and so that they will be able to have the data? You get my point. They can go out,
Right.
find
They,
those
they, they
farmers.
just didn't they just did an agricultural survey, and I'm asking for the data, but I don't know who has it.
That's exactly, yeah.
Whether it's ListGIS that has it, how is it being presented to the public? What will be shared? I don't know yet, but I will keep asking.
Yeah,
Got some.
because Yeah, because again, you see, like I said, I mean, when you're doing these things, the input side, Liberia presents a very unique opportunity because when you look at again, you are the data man. When you look at all what we import into the country, right, the rice and other things, domestic production is a very attractive offsetting of all of that import
It is, and that's
because
input substitution. If you
that's
support it, you
exactly
get
right.
input substitution.
That's
You
exactly right.
improve the earnings, the local earnings. You improve your, especially if you can export now, then you improve your balance of trade, balance of
That's
payment, all
exactly
of those
right.
things. You know.
And you're creating jobs locally. You're creating wealth locally. Locally, you're also elevating people's status in the economy. Okay, so and that's very strategic. If you look at just the importation of solo juice, let's go on to the fruit side. We import a lot of solo juice. Right now,
Yes.
John Kessler, you in the studio, right, John? If you send somebody to go and buy a solo juice right now on the street, take that solo juice, look on the side of the bottle. That solo juice is imported from either Lebanon or is imported from Egypt in the Sinai. So you just imagine, look at the map. That means that solo juice is loaded on a container coming through where from the Mediterranean Sea, right? Last time about geography, coming through the Strait of Gibraltar and coming all the way around to land in Liberia, whereby you're in. So you go to the restaurant, you eat, you pay for solo juice, mango, guava, grapefruit, or orange, but yet instead you leave from there, you come on the road and they get selling orange right there. so so but she's selling orange right there, and the price of the solo juice you can buy almost 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 orange shades for that same price. so
Hey,
so
and
so
that's value addition, right?
that's value
There's no
addition.
reason why we can have for. I mean, look, especially plum, especially mango.
Mango, yes.
I mean, I was in Magibi the other day, like around Mount Barclay. I was somewhere
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Johnsonville,
yeah, okay, yeah, oh yeah, okay.
and I share images of this plum tree. I
The
was
plum tree,
there.
yes, yeah, I remember,
Yeah,
I remember, I
and
remember.
we should be able to take those things that we just got. It will not take too much for us to elevate ourselves
That's
in
exactly
to be
right,
able to
yes.
start production of some of those things, and then we say, look, we're making mango juice in the country ourselves, and we got some of the sweetest plums you can find. So we don't need as much export, especially if they facilitated enough to produce a very good product. So there's so much opportunity for us to do this stuff, but the key thing is having a plan, being on the
Yes.
same page, and people not counting each other money in terms of, oh, this man will get X, Y, Z, the other man will get this, what thing I will get. So it has to be kind of balanced, and that's where with that overall national coordination is a little not, you know, clear for some people. So when they don't know what's in it for them, then it's a problem, and we got to change that.
And look at it from this standpoint, right? You are a businessman, John Kessler. Tell me if I'm wrong. The guy who, if it is, let's just say for the sake of numbers, because Ava likes data. So Ava, I need you to reconcile my data I'm about to talk here. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, $1 million worth of solo juice is being imported into the country, right? $1 million every month. $1 million comes in, and then we start aggressively locally producing or doing value add with the inputs on the mango side, the grapefruit side, the citrus side, we can put it that way. Okay. Which businessman will see the locally produced things that's now intruding on his importation, right? Okay. Because when he starts to see that the local production of the same product is being overly aggressively advertised, pushed into gas stations, pushed into supermarkets, pushed into restaurants, he will now start to see that he can't bring in $1 million anymore. Because why? The local production is now starting to erode.
Exactly.
His, that's it. You see it now? So that
Exactly.
businessman will start saying, you know what? It's not profitable for me anymore to keep inputting this. So what I'm going to do, let me find out who the local production people are. and let me make a deal with them so that I can now be what a major distributor for the locally produced juice. You get my point? So that's
Mhm.
how this thing works. And like have I used the right word? Input substitution. That's the key. Input substitution. If we look at it from that standpoint, then everybody wins. Everybody, quote unquote, makes money. The inputters, the farmers, the people who are doing the value add, the people who are preserving. Because again, somebody may own, Ava and myself may get together and say, my man, you know what, Ava, let buy 20, 40 foot container cold storage units and go and put it somewhere. We don't have to be in the agriculture business, but now we've got storage capacity for those who are doing value add. So everybody makes money in the value chain. But again, we as a people from government and leadership, I firmly believe in using the local government act to decentralize this thing, but the proper planning and the proper understanding of what we're trying to get on the output side. If we don't bring all of those parts together, we will just spend good money. And like Abba said, we'll end up putting a yoke on our neck to pay these debts. Once these governments who have taken these debts, taking these loans, they've left office and they've left the citizens and the young people with paying back the debts. And we won't have anything to show for it. John, go ahead. Join in. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, yeah, exactly. So my interest lies in the mango sector. You talk about juice, like you
Mm-hmm.
rightly said. If Liberians producing their own juice within
Yeah.
anyone that how do you call it? Anyone that trying to import and understanding that Liberia are producing theirs, they will
Mm-hmm.
drop their product in bringing into the country because
Mm-hmm.
we got grapefruit here, we got pineapple, we got banana, we got how do you call it
You name it. You
tangerine.
name it. Everything is here. Everything is here,
As of
bro.
it, we can produce our own juice right here. If we just have the facility and to do it, we can do it right here. But it's just like difficult because the difference there will be Liberia own and the one from outside. Some people think that the one from outside is well nutri pass through the rank and file the Liberia own. But if you look at Liberia, we produce. I prefer Liberia own because it made right here and the money will stay right here. It won't go outside.
The cost of
It,
production is less. The cost of
yes,
production is less.
it'll
That's
be
it.
less. It'll be less. And government will benefit instead of taking the money for you and saying it outside. So it is why it was just the right thing you said.
Go ahead, Abba. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we'll just look at some
Mhm.
comparisons
Okay.
of yield, and then how we compare, on a rating basis.
Mm.
Let me just share this. Present share screen. All right. So this is just a high level summary of yield per hectare, because usually in agriculture they use hectare more so than acres.
Okay.
Um, Now I believe a hectare is probably 2.4 acres or something to that
Mhm.
effect. But let's look at cassava, right? Um, we do about
Yeah, 2.5 acres. 2.5 acres. Two and a half
right.
acres equal 1 hectare. Mhm.
All right. So we do about, yeah, 2.47, yeah, 2.5. We do about 8 tons per hectare in cassava,
Mhm.
right? And this sounds generous, but I hope this is right. In Nigeria, or the West African average using Nigeria is 10 to 11 hectares. So we see already we are behind. Then the African um,
All right.
average, it comes down a little bit compared with Nigeria, where Nigeria is one of the major producers of cassava, but also one of the major importers of cassava. You know, so right here on the continent, there are huge opportunities for us to be able to, um, you know, sell cassava across. And that was another thing, that though they want it very cheap, One of the guys gave an example where they had an agreement with some folks from Nigeria who wanted to buy a significant volume of cassava from Liberia, but they couldn't. But then we look at the top global producers, Thailand and Brazil, what they get in 20 to 30 hectares. That's nearly 2 to 3 times what we're doing, 2 plus to 3 times what we're doing in Liberia. So you see that amount of room for growth in terms of just the production side. Then you look at rice, basically the same thing. You look at cocoa, we're doing 0.65 tons per hectare. Ghana, Ivory Coast, where they are the major producers in terms of volume, they're doing 0.8 to 1. Okay. Um, then Ecuador and Peru, they're doing nearly 2 tons per hectare. That's significant. In coffee, we don't have a well-structured coffee and it's not coffee market. So data obviously is not available. Um, we look at Uganda, they are at zero point 0.6. Brazil is like 2 times plus that, and Vietnam the same. They're all the way up there to 1.5 to 2.5 tons per hectare. So we have so much room to improve and to move forward. At a high level, when they compare us, look at the dimensions, the yield. When we're talking about the entire sector now, the yield across crops that we just look at, we are low. Regionally, moderate. The global leaders are very high. If we look at value addition, we low. Regionally is mixed because some countries in Africa are really producing and other countries are not. The global leaders, they're very high. Look at export competitiveness. We don't really compete in the export market. Regionally for cocoa and rice, they're high. They're competing. They're producing rice. We've seen images of Nigeria and Ghana with piles and piles of rice.
Mm-hmm,
Global leaders,
mm-hmm.
again, they're very high. Our infrastructure is weak. Water is the tools we use, whether it's our roads, whether it's our irrigation system, all of those things are things that we have limitations with, right? And then in terms of the policy investment, we're just discussing the retrap in terms of the investment in the sector, and the clarity of investment is not there. In other places, it's moderate to strong. Globally, is robust for those global leaders. They have serious opportunities there for the people. So this just shows that the room for growth, if you want to look at it on the optimistic side, is huge. But if you look at it from the other side, it's like, what are we doing? We really need to do more to get to be competitive with many of these other folks out there who are trying to do the same thing.
Okay, so let me just throw in this piece, right? The reason why those numbers look that way, the reason why those numbers are so positive, so attractive, so vibrant, and so progressively, moving upward, is because those countries' leaderships over time have put into place a strategic plan. They've recognized, they've done the homework, and they've made a deliberate and purposeful set of investments in those sectors to create jobs, to industrialize the economies. And by doing that, they ultimately attracted they attracted the right investments and investors, be it local, diaspora, or foreign investors, into the value chain. You're back to your seeing how we the topic of today. They invested into different segments of the value chain. Again, the chain is made up of links. So every link creates an opportunity or a segment to invest in. And because there was a well cleared, laid out plan and a set of strategies to implement those plans, that's why the results that you're talking about show themselves the way they are. So let's come back to us in Liberia. Where's our strategic plan? Where is our strategic plan as it relates to the agricultural value chain? We don't have one. We do not have one. And this has been the problem for the past 20 years.
And I will
We
tell
do not.
you, as a member of the Liberal Agricultural Value Chain Actors, we are starting to do something. But
Yeah.
for a sector or portion
Mhm.
of a sector that has been in existence for a while, to not have a solid strategic plan, even if that was something from 3 years ago, that 5 years you're trying to pick up now, is a challenge. But then
It's a
also
challenge.
there are some limitations in terms of the players' capability to do it because it's not like it's really government supported, right? It's the farmers trying to do stuff by themselves, or the actors in the area trying to do stuff by themselves. So that
You know,
feedback, if you create a
yeah.
draft document for review, for pushing it, for doing this, or getting some early commitments in terms of
Mhm.
who would do this, who would do that, and how you funding this particular institution when people hardly got money to pay before they will pay a membership fee of $100 each person to be able to do some of the analysis that necessary to be able to get like a data system going, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So um
You know,
it's really challenging until we can
it,
really
it,
put money into that. It's tough.
so Dwight Port John, please put Dwight Port's comment up on the screen. Okay, so Dwight Port, one of my good friends here in Houston, he said exactly. Do we have cargo planes that fly in and out of Liberia? So this point, right? So let's expand on this point because Dwight, the key thing. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for interacting on the forum this morning. So cargo planes flying in and out of Liberia, we call those people, those cargo planes coming in and out of Liberia will be sent in by the off takers. That's part of the value chain. So if we plant enough mangoes, right? If we don't, I mean, if mango becomes one of those crops that we put for the counters to produce, and we properly work with Ava to provide that data, right? On the e-mansion website under agriculture, that investors and off takers can go there and see what Liberia is producing and investing in the mango sector. Trust me, Liberia doesn't have to own the cargo planes. Those guys will send the planes in because SM Brussels flies in. And SM Brussels would take the contract to what? To haul that cargo, those mangoes out and get them into European supermarkets. Because somebody will want to buy the mangoes coming from Liberia. But then you're back to what Abba talked about. Do we have the standards in place? Who are you laughing at, Abba? Okay, yes. Do we have the standards in place so whoever would be part of that value chain to go in the field to buy the mangoes from the growers, wash them, pack them, put them in boxes as according to the standards by the supermarket or whoever the off taker will be, and load them on the crates so that when SM Brussels fly in, they can take the 3, 4, 5, or 6 tons of the products from Liberia back to Europe. So that portion is already in place. Even if it's okra, if we plant it, trust me, someone will buy it. But again, Ava made a point earlier. There's a missing component in the value chain: effective communication. You've got to effectively communicate and market what it is you're planning to do. Your strategic plan has to be effectively marketed so that the off takers, right, can understand and say, man, you know what? Liberia is looking to do this. So within the next 6, 8, or 12 months, we need to put into place our infrastructure in Monrovia so that by the time these farmers start getting the investment to grow, we want to be strategically positioned in the value chain to be the off takers. These guys will come in, they will build their warehouses in Magidi, in Buchanan, based on that, and they will start making the calls to their cargo planes to say, hey, you know, I need you to fly in here to take my goods out because they've already broken and they've already sold it. But again, where is the strategic planning? It's not there. Is it
I'll
being
give you an
communicated?
example here. Like
Go ahead, Abba.
the story I was telling you, I will just read it because just to
Mm-hmm.
be fair.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy said, Isaac, we had a joint study with our friends in Nigeria because I asked them, do we have any connections with folks in Nigeria for some of
Mm-hmm.
this? Because Nigeria need cassava.
Yeah.
So we had a joint study with our friends in Nigeria who are involved with cassava value addition. We
Mm-hmm.
looked specifically at cassava chips for animal feed.
Okay.
Nigeria was willing to offtake huge quantity of chips from us at 140 per ton.
Okay.
However, production, processing, and packaging costs were far in excess of that 140 price. Okay, because we could not come down to that. Therefore, we couldn't continue the business. Then the second example he gave, we engaged a Chinese firm
Mhm.
to offtake 30,000 metric tons of cassava chips monthly.
Monthly.
Okay,
Mhm.
but we could also not sustain consistent flow of the product due to
There
low
you go.
production to meet such demands.
There you
Analysis
go.
of the sector at the time showed that we could only supply that market consistently for 3 months,
You-
after
there
which
3
you
months.
go.
we had to wait for another 9 to 18 months to complete another production cycle. I mean, and we lost that contract. So why are we losing this contract? How do we prepare to meet market
Because
requirements?
the other part of the
Quantity,
value chain, the
quality,
other part of the
price,
value chain is not
and
done. The other
timing.
part. Yes,
Timing.
yes, yes,
So
yes,
we got
yes.
to work together. This thing is a holistic effort.
And I
We
can bet
will
you, Ava,
achieve this.
and I can bet you, Ava, the reason why they couldn't get the cost down, the reason why they couldn't get the production cost and the processing cost down was energy. In order for them to process that cassava, there they were calculating the fuel consumption on generators, and
That's
and
true.
that's a losing proposition for the beginning. That's a losing proposition.
So let me share why I was laughing just now, right? We at our CWA
Yeah.
convention,
Uh,
and the folks went for breakfast at 10 o'clock, but the show was at 10, so I couldn't go.
okay.
They're telling me how sweet the food is, right? So I called to I called to say, your big keeps on asking how great for me, or you bring it for me. What's the response? No, if you can't, you eating nothing.
all I can say is please don't faint on the show. Don't faint in the room because
That's why I'm sipping on some water so I get so I get fit for hunger.
but I mean but the example you give is so appropriate. I mean it's the same thing. This thing, the guys who are doing that project, right? If you think about it, they were not the growers. They were off takers. They were off takers. They were off takers. They had gone out to find the farmers who were planting the cassava. They weren't planters. They weren't growers.
So to
But the problem,
Dwight's point,
yeah,
imagine the consumers in Minnesota. That's that one state he's talking about,
yeah,
wanting
yeah,
mangoes,
yeah, yeah.
cassava, corns, plantains, and edibles. If a cargo plane is available, that's a huge market. Right. You are very, very correct. The
Very good
ethnic
boy.
food market is
Mhm.
huge.
Huge. Yes,
Been
yes, yes,
rising, I think, at a compound annual growth rate of probably like 6 to 7% year
yes.
over year.
Yeah,
And
over
we
here.
cannot become a part of that.
We're not playing
And
it.
again, if we don't have access to capital to expand our production capacity, our processing capacity, being able to get from farm to market, from market to airport or free port, wherever, we're not gonna get into this market.
No, no.
Somebody, preferably government, has to make that initial investment to get us to that level. And just 1 year of committed investment is not enough. We need something to really set the foundation that then when people start to profit, they can leverage off and be able to pay back. So it takes coordination, it takes planning, it takes strategic understanding of where the market is.
Yeah, there you
So
go. There
how
you
do
go.
we improve even the African Union? How do we improve transportation?
Yeah.
Because for some countries to get food from here to maybe Gambia, you gotta go fly to Togo first, you gotta go fly to, to some other country before you bring the food to the place. No,
Yeah.
we have to improve transportation on the continent. So AU has its own agricultural improvement plan. But look, this continent can be self-contained to a large
Yeah.
extent. Everything is here on
But
this
but
African continent.
but Ava, let's take another segue, right? Let's stay on this same value chain. Well, let's leave government out of it. Let's ask the question. Let's ask the question. Where is the private sector in this? Let's leave government out of it. If government cannot see it, if they cannot see it, if they cannot hear it, if they don't understand it, why are we depending on them? When if this is such a big opportunity, right? Then why can't the private sector, the Liberian private sector in the diaspora, why can't they engage into this? Why can't they actively engage in this sector?
So I will give an
And
example of what I'm thinking about, right?
okay,
So far with the Liberian,
leave government out, leave government out. Don't
right.
talk about government no
So
more.
far with the Liberian Diaspora Equity Fund, we got what 30 to maybe 35,000 that people have put in, right? For me, it could be a thing that people want you to show what you can do first before they
That's
say, "Oh, we
exactly
can trust
right.
you with more money," right? So we need to take whatever later we got, talk to the people who have invested, and say, "Look, this is direction with John, Mr. John Peter, who producing cassava chips or raw cassava and stuff, to see how we can elevate that business.
That's
We invest
exactly
in
right.
that business, partner with that person or those two or three
Produce
people
results.
to make sure
Produce
that we can
results.
get
Yeah.
production going and get it in the diaspora. And once we start that and we can show some returns, we
And
don't have to wait for
people,
the big money. We don't have to wait for the big money. Um, and yeah, this is another great point.
John
Money is
Moyu, yeah.
making. Yeah,
Liberian cassava farmers. Oh, I
sorry.
will read it. Liberian
Right, go ahead.
cassava farmers can learn from the mistakes of Nigeria. Nigerians produce over 59 million metric tons of cassava annually, but the majority of the cassava is consumed locally. So there's a local market.
Yep.
That brings that bring in about $1 million annually.
No, that
Uh,
that number is low. I don't know what he's talking about. 1 million annually. It can
the
be.
key is on the
Just one pulling to just one small section of Nigeria, like
yeah.
$1 million. So
Yeah, bringing $1 billion annually from the cassava export because their focus is adding value, i.e., chips, bioethanol, etc. Yeah, again, the thing is this. The question is, I mean, why can't the private sector, why must we Liberians always ask what can our country do for us, as opposed to asking ourselves, what can we do for the country? I think the private sector plays a very important role, especially the diaspora investments. I think, but again, back to your number one point of data. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. And no one's going to invest their money in something that they don't know about. Because in order for an investor to put his money somewhere, he needs to get information. He needs data. He needs clarity because all of that gives him better understanding and better knowledge so that he can calculate his return on investment. You get my point. You see,
right.
because I mean, like what we talked about last week about the poultry, the importation of chickens or poultry parts into Liberia is extremely high. Why? Because Liberians are not investing in local poultry production. Every businessman wants to make money. So again, why is it? I mean, this is where I think we Liberians we're failing ourselves. We're failing our country. We're not investing in those areas. We're not trying to get information about the areas. The cassava farmers, cassava growers, whatever the case is, they're not providing the data so that people can access the data and then make good investment decisions on the data. You see, so in most of these markets, they are not developed. We're not developing the different segments of the market to attract diaspora investments. Okay, I mean, diaspora remittance to Liberia. We talk about this all the time. About it's over $800 million. It's approaching $1 billion. Is $200 million short of $1 billion that goes into the Liberian economy every year. So how can we in the diaspora get the information about the mango? I mean, you go and again, keep in mind, we Liberians need to understand. I live in Texas, Houston to be specific. By the time you drive 5 or 6 hours and get into Mexico, it's tropical.
Yeah.
So the Mexicans, don't forget, they grow cassava as well. Most of the cassava in all the supermarkets here, they come from Mexico. They come from Mexico. And we are not playing in that market. And again, don't forget, like Ava said, the tropical foods or the foreign food or ethnic food in a market in the US is growing rapidly, compound every year. So, what is our strategic plan? How can we in the diaspora come together and say, look, guys, let's make an investment group, diaspora investment equity fund. I firmly believe pick something that's already moving, invest into it, produce results because we Liberians, we're skeptics by nature. Everybody is afraid to be the guinea pig. Nobody wants to go to, everybody wants to go to heaven, but everybody's afraid to die. But death is a prerequisite to get to heaven. I mean, that's just the reality. So, I mean, that's where, government got their role. But again, I believe the private sector has a greater role that they can play, because private sector money is ROI driven. Nobody wants to put their money into something that they will not get their money out of. Government, again, like you were saying, what's in it for me? But when you have private sector money and you're driving the private sector with private sector money, then I think this is where we can actually produce results. I will close on this point, then you can jump in, John or Ava. Why can't we in the diaspora approach the local banks and sell the idea to the local banks? Because again, communication, I'm a business development specialist. That's what I do. If you can sell the idea, if you can sell the concept, if you can show a banker how he gets his money back, how he makes his money, and show him the long-term benefits and what role he plays in the whole deal, he will invest his money as long as he can get, like you always talk about it, right? Where he can play a role to control, because that's his money. So he's not going to take his money and give it to you, but again, he's going to ask, what are you bringing to the table? What are you bringing to the table? So that again requires a strategic plan. So I think the private sector, we need to come together. We need to think out this process thoroughly from beginning to end. We need to look at the value chain, because we have a lot of growers. We have a lot of importers. I mean, you talked about your little project you went to up around, what was it, Kirisburg or something like that, right?
Yeah, outside Kirisburg in Magibi. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's so many farmers. And we had that young lady on the show last week, Kula Dajo. We had Jusu on the show last week. He's a local small poultry producer. Jusu's got 2 chicken houses. He's got 1,000 chickens on the market. He's selling his chickens already, getting ready for 26. That's a young guy there are things already on the ground that diasporans can kind of sit down, engage, and see it, like you said, move it to the next level. Because starting over from zero is challenging. Let's talk about Dwight is very engaging today. Liberians need an all Liberian conference so these proposals are properly discussed. It could be virtual, then in person.
He's right. He's right. We need to find a way to come together. Look, if we just Nigeria, let's look at this here. Just Nigeria.
Go ahead.
Right? You can see my screen, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So Nigeria is the largest cassava producer, right? But in the country, they got significant investment potential, right? So they're doing 63 billion metric tons. That was in 2021. Today, they're paying maybe 75, 80 million, right? But if we just scroll down and look at it, look at their production, 7 metric tons, and similarly close to Liberia versus Ghana at 22.5. So Ghana is doing something great, because Ghana is not that far from Indonesia, which is one of the best at 26.6. So if we even reflect on what I shared before, we can learn from Ghana. We can learn from what other people are doing. And look at all the different ways, the leaves and the roots, the flour, the food, the ethanol, animal feed, the starch.
Hang on, Ava. Now think about this. You mentioned Indonesia in the lead, right? Indonesia's in the lead, right? Right?
Yep.
Okay. If you don't know, Indonesia is an archipelago nation. It's a group of islands. Am I correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you are. Yeah.
So it is a group of guys living on top of rocks in the ocean, producing more cassava than we who living on a continent. Imagine that. Indonesia is an archipelago nation. It's a group of islands that make up Indonesia.
Yes.
Granted, they have that. Yeah. Okay.
And that's why we have an advantage, and we're not using it.
Right. That's exactly right. But the key is a group of people living in an archipelago, a group of islands have what? They have a strategic plan. They have a strategic plan, and it's a strategic. They have a set of strategies to drive that plan to produce the results for their country. And then they're doing what? They're investing in the energy sector to do what? The value addition to create jobs for all of their people. We
So
need to
so
take that same model.
if we just
Go
look
ahead,
at
Alan.
this number again, yeah,
Mhm,
right? Ethanol in Nigeria, 99.06 billion. That's the
mhm,
global market value, right?
mhm.
And it was expected to surpass 162 by 2033. But
Okay.
let even go to just 110. If we say
Mhm,
we do ethanol for Nigeria or for the world market up to 1 billion. We
mhm.
come down to starch. Let's make it simple. Let's say starch.
Stash.
Market 59.31 billion, and now it has increased, right? If we say cassava flour, the same way. So we got to target specifics. We can't just
That's
be
exactly
general.
right.
There has to be a
A strategic
strategy,
plan, a
us
strategic,
entering
yes.
these markets and
Yeah.
focusing on what we think we can do better than other people and get it out there. Look at Nigeria gap. A recent PricewaterhouseCoopers report shows that the country has a supply slash demand gap for high quality cassava flour of about 485,000 metric tons and a gap for cassava starch of about 290,000 metric tons. So can we not fill some of those gaps? We should be able to.
We have again. It's not a matter of if, whether or not we're capable, whether or not we're competent, whether or not we're able. There's got, again, like you said, there's got to be a strategic plan. We need about drop off. We need a
Mhm.
strategic plan, John Kesey, because John Kesson.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Until you have a strategic plan, nothing works. Okay, nothing works without a plan. No one is just going to wake up in the morning and take off and say, we're bringing these machines, we're going to go plant cassava. No, it doesn't work that way. There's got to be a strategic plan that has to be implemented maybe over 12 months, maybe over 18 months, or maybe over 24 months. He's coming back. So once that every part of that plan will address a segment in the value chain. Because again, like we're talking about the ethanol side, or you're talking about the starch. Because if you just want to grow the cassava, because every level, every part of the value chain, every step that you add value to the cassava, you create more jobs and you increase the value of the cassava. I mean, not diverting. Why you think Mita Steel made that investment in building the pelletization plant in Yekepa? Because there's no money in unprocessed iron ore. They made that investment. They built a power plant. They brought in that machine. They brought in experts. They paid for that. They brought that thing up online. Why? Because it was a return on investment to add value to the ore. It's the same thing in the agriculture sector. It's the same thing in the agriculture sector. So again, we got to think, we got to understand, like Abba said, we need to bring greater understanding into this thing so that we can understand what the value chain is all about. Us, it's a group of links all together. Because we've got the inputs, we got the land, we've got the small farmers. They're not organized. They're not organized. But someone needs to organize them in a commune. Somebody needs to organize them in a commune. One person got 1 acre, the other person got 5 acres, the other person got 3. They got the land, but they're not even farming the entire 10 acres that they own.
No.
That's the
So
problem.
the cooperative mindset has to
Yeah,
come into play
that's
more,
it.
and people got to build these blocks. We got to find
That's
way
it.
to access the markets here, get some commitments, get some
Yeah.
contracts that we can come and fulfill in
There's
Liberia.
a,
So it's about really collaborating and working together. If
yes,
we can get
yes,
some of those
yes,
things going, we
yes.
should be able to really be beneficial with our agricultural output. Um, you know, yeah, somebody else just said it about
The
the
John Moy.
cooperative model. And it can work. We can build these people up and build the offtake, and we can change the cycle of production.
That's
It doesn't
exactly
have to
right.
be
Yes,
specific time.
yes.
If you have
Mhm.
water consistently in certain places, you can grow food all year round. So So irrigation is very critical, and the investment has to be made for it to be there, and it's doable. So we just have to think on these solutions. We laid out, many of the issues that are involved. Now we got to really focus on how partnering with people in the sector in terms of the value chain, really be able, in our own context to develop, the food security aspect, the import substitution we talk about, the exporting, diversifying what we export, and then the job creation. Because all of these things are there. They are doable. They are things that we can get to if we really want, our country to increase. And again, foreign direct investment, whether from diasporans or from other people, will be the key. We need an influx of money. We cannot just sit on what we think we have right now, or what this short-term thing we're looking at. We got to think long-term. We got to set specific targets. We got to want to know this is the market we want to go in, the African market, the Nigerian market, and this is the volume we expect to produce, and this is how we do it. So the input and the extension enhancement are necessary. The tree crops, the rehabilitation, being able to do the clearing, being able to do the subsidizing of replanting, and getting the right kind of variety in our country. Make sure that Carry works. Carry is a research institution, and
In
they have
Banga.
to work. Yes,
Hmm.
in Manga, they have to
Hmm.
work. They have to do the work, but they got to be empowered to do the work. There got to be some level of funding for the guys to experiment with these different things, build relationships with the international partners or continental partners. Because on in the African continent, there are some countries that have specialized in different kind of products, and we have some of those products here. So if we
Hmm.
can get some of that expertise to work with us and see where we can get to, build those partnerships, we can really, really, really advance. And then Liz just has to do its role. You get this agricultural data. Where is the data house? How are you communicating that data to people who want to use the data for them to understand the sector better, for them to learn? So, overall for me, I believe our value chains have underperformed, and compared with other West African countries, not just man saying or international benchmarks, we are way below the standards. We are low, and we need to increase that. And the only way we can improve our production, our export, our overall posture, agricultural posture, is to do some of these key things like improving the import, like improving our extension, our services to the people in the field. This whole process that coming with these machines, being able to have an effective logistical movement around them that people can benefit. It will not be selective, and that's the um I forgot the phrase that the minister himself used, something about that's the elite people just getting it right. They gotta restrict that. But if the fees that they're gonna charge to get these people to use the machine are still prohibitive for them, then it will be only the few people who can afford it. So we'll have to find a way to make this thing work. And thank you for us having this conversation. Hopefully there can be more of this. Hopefully we can invite some people from the value chain sectors, like we pick 3 or 4 sectors and have a little panel discussion about them where they can share their practical thoughts. Yeah, I'm sharing some of it, but it's better for people to hear it directly
Sure,
from these
sure.
people who are in the arena, who are doing things, who are feeling the challenges and can articulate it with a level of passion that people probably need to hear to say, oh yes, we can do something, but oh yes, we can probably partner with a guy who just needs to expand his capacity. So those are some of the things that we got to talk about. And hey, before long, we can be a key player in this agriculture sector, in a continental marketplace and in the world marketplace. So with that, my stomach is feeling it.
So we got limited time here. Should I open the lines to
Yeah,
get
open
other
the lines.
people?
Let's hear from a few people if there are calls to make, and then we in the next 10-15 minutes we can close out.
Okay, so we out there in Liberia, call us on 0778 665 0778 665 0887 105 105 0887 105 105. It's Business Talk on your radio, comes away every Saturday. And today is Saturday, 28th day of June. We are here this afternoon. Mr. Phillips and Mr. Fatokba is also here. this afternoon. If you're there in the agriculture field and following us, let's have yeah, let's hear you. Let's give your expertise on the discussion here this afternoon. So call us on that number 0778 665 073 0887 are the numbers to call us in Liberia and can be part. They also pin on the screen for our diaspora Liberians out there. You can also call us. It's on the screen 0778 665 078 0778 665 073 0887 105 0887 105 105 are the numbers to call us here. Mr. Va, are there any numbers for our people in the diaspora?
Well, they can call my number +1 301 655 5984 +1 301 655 5984. But sometimes people tend to be shy to call. But if you can make a couple calls now, we appreciate it, just so we can hear your thoughts, we can get your perspective on how you feel about this whole agricultural value chain, where it's at. Maybe you may have some different thoughts about it, but there's a lot of room for improvement, and we just hope that collectively, the value chain actors, the Ministry of Agriculture, the potential domestic and diaspora investors out there can really come together to make something happen, because the opportunity is there. It's just about making an investment and being able to produce and process at the level of expectations of the local market, and get a little foothold in the international market. Folks, we really really can do it. The opportunity is there for us to do. Let's see how we can corral our resources and be able to start small. We don't have to start big. And hopefully this week, Dwalu, Ansu Dwalu, the CEO for Labrador Diaspora Equity Fund, and myself will come and talk about, he did an article, um, what was it, like 2 3 days ago, or sometime earlier this week. And it was an interesting article, but there's also aspects of that article that can be enhanced, and we hope that we can have a conversation and discuss it. I will be drafting or kind of addendum to his article this week. Then where he said, where I said, we can come together and be able to articulate it a little bit more, drill down a little deeper, and get a better understanding of
You got me cracking. Oh, I don't know if you hear me, but call us on 0778 665 0887 105 105 are the numbers to call us here. We're talking about agriculture value chain. If you're out there, agriculture specialist, you can call us, give your intake on our discussion here, and let's hear you on the program Business Talk. So if you dare call us, let's have the conversation. Here we have Mr. R. Phillips and Mr. Asif Vatokpa is also here from the United States, and I'm John Kessler from Liberia. So if you're there, you can call us, have a say this afternoon on the program Business Talk. We are talking about the state of agriculture value change in Liberia. So call us if you're there. Let's have your conversation here. Let's have your take on the conversation. Let's hear you this afternoon on the state of agriculture value chains in Liberia. We are talking about agriculture in this country, and if you may be aware, it's one of the key pillars of our president, the arrest agenda. Is agriculture is part of it, and how to get the product. We talk about rural, we talk about seeds, we talk about manpower, we talk about how to get it from farm to market. And so you can call us on that number, talk to us on 077 8665 073 0887 105 105. If you insert fee, what are some of the challenges to get your product from the farm to the market? What are some of the challenges if you insert fee? So call us, and let's hear you this afternoon on this program, Business Talk. Come away every Saturday from the. Let's take the first call. Hello?
Hello,
Hello, Mr. Vai. Are you hearing me? Yeah.
I'm Ben Akwi, a resident of Lufa County.
Hi,
But
Ben.
presently, I'm in Morulia.
Okay, go ahead, Ben.
I'm a banana farmer.
Banana?
Between 2018,
Yes,
I was
banana
here to,
farmer. Go
yes,
ahead. He
I
asked about
was,
the United States. Go ahead.
I was I made a farm about 5 acres of banana farm. But by 2018, there was no road to be able to transport this
Wow.
commodity to the market. So it got me so frustrated. I abandoned the farm. You see, and now that this new government has come, I'm hearing about agriculture, especially what you are discussing there. I'm so interested in it, and I would like for you to give me some information. How can I go about so that I can carry on my my farming
Okay.
and continue?
Just keep listening. They will answer you from the United States. They will answer you. So he talked about 2018. He started the process, but he was like challenged as it relates to road
No,
in
I heard him.
2018.
I heard
Okay.
him. Yeah.
All right.
No, so the first thing is to ascertain about your property, right? You make sure that your property is still there and stuff. And I hear the road is opening. The road is much better now. Somebody even talk about this recent trip from Monrovia to Zwedru, where people went there in 8 hours. But that's the president convoy. That's a different thing. But the roads are getting better, right? And you should consider, how you can be able to restart your farm, start your business, register with the Ministry of Agriculture that you recognize and can have the opportunity to get grants or to, put in proposals and requests, and then see how you can find partnership. Post is saying. Everybody don't have to just start a farm. Not everybody can be in the agriculture sector, but not everyone has to be a farmer. There are different roles to play. There's investor role, there's coordination role, there's selling to them, like you were saying. There's in there. You don't have to be a cassava farmer to benefit from the sector. You can sell to the people or you can sell for them. So there are multiple ways to be involved, and we just really hope that more people can get involved in the agriculture sector and start to think that that's a way that our economy can boom and be able to make a difference, create jobs, create wealth for some people, or at least improve the standard of living for some people.
Yeah, Mr.
So,
Felix, you want to come in?
you want to come in? I'm
Yeah, I
about to
mean,
head out.
no, I was listening to him. I mean, again, like you said, about the people who have land already, people who have land, 10 acres, 15 acres, 50 acres, 100 acres, you are already ahead of the process. If you've got your land, you got your deed, you got it registered locally, archives or ministry of the land commission. Once you have land, you can leverage that land, and then you become an input into the value chain, or you can take whatever that land is, leverage it with a bank, and then put together a business plan. That's the key. If you're in the private sector and you don't have a plan, and that you put together with good understanding and knowledge of the agriculture sector, pick a crop, pick a pepper, pick cassava, pick whatever it is, either for local consumption, and then figure out in that plan how you will grow, how you will add value, process and package, and then deliver into the local market within your area, or bring it into Monrovia, which is the biggest market. I think that's where the problem is, or that's where the challenge is. We're not thinking out the process. Everybody just wants to take money, come in, make quick money. But agriculture is a long-term investment. There's nothing quick about agriculture unless you go up and you buy and you bring the red land market and you sell. In fact, why do you think the women bring this stuff in so early? Because if you don't sell by 12 or 1 o'clock, it's not, because they're perishable goods. They're perishable goods. The cassava will spoil, the okra will spoil, the pepper will spoil, the bitter ball will spoil. So that's why they want to get it into the market early, and then you're depending on people to come to the market. But again, I mean, it takes, that's what the preservation and the processing and the value chain are all very important parts of this process for our agriculture. The person who I would really like to come to call in would be Dwight. Dwight, if you're able to call in, that would be very important. I really want Dwight Port to call in because he's had some, even Joe Moyo. If you can call in on WhatsApp, I think that would be good for you guys to interact. I'm not saying you're hiding behind Facebook, but I mean, we want people to interact. Agriculture is so important for our country's growth, development, and progress. and is a key part of our economy. If we don't invest in it and just focus on extracting resources, hauling out bauxite, hauling out iron ore, what has it done for us in the long, short, medium, and long term? We've left nothing but a bunch of holes in different parts of the country, and there's no long term infrastructure, nothing of the sort. And that's why agriculture is so important because it's sustainable.
Well, I gotta head out. I gotta go
No,
and enjoy
you go ahead. You go ahead
the
before
rest of
because
my stay
you
in
missed your
fellow
breakfast. You don't want
practice.
to miss the lunch. You missed your breakfast. You don't want to miss the lunch.
I don't
So
want to miss the lunch. No. So wonderful. Thank you for the time again. This has been a very good show. We'll keep enlightening, keep sharing, and keep bringing more information. But yes, agriculture is key. And hopefully, I can try to get the agricultural minister on here or some kind of representative who's pushing the whole retrap and other stuff for them to discuss this more and be able to share with us some of what they're doing, let people understand, and find the niches where people can really come in and support the general effort. So thank you for the time. I'll be seeing you guys next week. And next week,
okay,
where
Ava.
will I be? I'll be at Essence Festival next week. So I'll be able to share some of the joy from Essence Festival next week.
Good, good. Enjoy your day, man. Enjoy the convention. Regards to everybody who I know and those who I don't know. Be
Yeah, you
careful. Have
definitely
fun out there
know
in
I'm
person.
chilling here with Dr. William here, so you definitely know him. So
Okay. Tell my financial man I say hi.
and
Tell him
he's a man who can really help in the agriculture sector, but
that's
because
it.
of all the noise there, so he is there.
No, in fact, tell Ballhead we need him to be a guest on the show one day on this sector. We need him. We need him on the show because I mean,
I'll let you
he-
know what you say.
yeah.
All right.
Tell him. Okay, okay, buddy.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Bye bye.
So, John, let's continue. Let's continue. I mean, what I want to get your thoughts. You are on the ground. You go to the market. You send your wife or your significant other to the market every day. How do you see this agriculture sector? How do you see it? I mean, forget about the government side. Government is government, right? The private sector side. What do you think the challenge is? Why do you think the private sector is not actively engaging the agricultural sector to really, really make the investments in it? I know that there are some people doing some things. I do know that in the poultry sector, in rubber. But again, what do you think the problem or the challenge is? What do you think it is? Don't talk about government, private
No,
sector.
no, not government. In the private sector, I would think that there are not much being done. The laissez-faire attitude of we the citizen in going through the agriculture sector, like you talk about uh, our graduates in Liberia. We got so many graduates from the agriculture standpoint, but how can they impact in the field, in the sector? There are challenges that have to do with agriculture in Liberia. So uh, we need to do more. We Liberians, outside government, we need to focus on agriculture. It's another side of employment, like you said, because if we focus on agriculture, agriculture go faster. You just get a product in the market, it go faster. I don't know why they don't want to invest in agriculture, but concession company, other private citizen, if you invest in agriculture, you realize that your sin that you put in without loss, you gain what you put in. It's just about the matter of time. It's just a matter of time. It's not agriculture is not like Washington that you put it there today, you want it out tomorrow. It's like maybe you put it in like you calculate maybe 1 year, 6 months, 2 years. You give it a chance for it to grow, bring it to the market, and I believe when it's fully ready for market, you get what you want. So we Liberians need to put in our time into agriculture and leave the government sector because all our government can employ all of us. So what we need to do is to go back to the soil, to put our resources in the soil. And believe in me, you not get time for government job if you just have the peace you want. Liberia is fertile task. We have rain, we have sunshine, we had the soil. So why can't we go to the soil and just leave the government where they focus on agriculture? If you believe in me, if you try and trust and believe in me, you will definitely gain, and you never realize why you're not in government. You like
Yeah.
I in my private space and I get what I want. and I getting my needs, my wants. So no need to go government. You just sit in your private space and then go through agriculture. It's a fast making thing, but it's just about a matter of time. That's all.
I like the put John Moyu statement up there. John, I wish you could call in and participate with us on the show, because John Moyu, the last part of his statement that he said, you do not or you don't have to be a cassava farmer to benefit from the sector, and that's so true. Because again, today we're talking about the value chain, right? Every link in the chain is one segment within that chain. So if it's the cassava value chain or the rice value chain or the citrus fruit value chain, one person is growing, another person is the off taker from all the growers. So you don't have to be a farmer to participate in the value chain. Okay, you don't have to be a farmer. You could be the guy who has the pickup or who will charter the pickup and go up and find the people who are planting, and then make agreements or contract with the growers so that, hey, when you're ready to harvest, contact me and I will come and I will buy everything and then I will process it and bring it into the market.
Mm-hmm.
You could be another guy who go to China, and you buy the cassava processing machines. And you could choose to be the one, you build your place on Mount Barkley Road or in Kakata, wherever the case is. And then you buy 3, 4, or 5 machines for China Connect on LEC or whatever the case is. And you just buying cassava and you processing the cassava, you making animal feed,
Very,
right?
very easy.
And you
Very easy.
just feed, you supply. So you don't have to be a grower. I think that's where a lot of people don't understand when we talk
Yes.
about the agriculture value chain. The chain, as when Alva started off the discussion this morning, he talked about the chain. The chain is, if you look at the chain around your neck, is a link.
Yeah, it's a link. It
It's a
starts from
series.
up,
It's
come
a
down.
series. Yeah, that's it. So you got a whole bunch of individual links all connected together to make the chain, and that's what this whole thing is. It is a value chain. So you could just be in the transportation sector, in the agriculture sector. You got 10 pickups, and you're on a contract where you make your money is with the guy who buys the stuff from the interior, because he give you a contract every Friday. Say, my man, go up and go to the farm, pick all my produce and bring it to my plant, because I
Yes.
don't want to buy trucks. So since you own trucks, I will give you that contract. But you're playing in the agriculture sector. 1 minute, please. Hey,
So you are muted. So like you're saying, it another side of it, because you have the car, you don't have the farm. What you need to do is just to work with the man with the farm. You just go there every week and pick up the product, pick it at the market. You are
Exactly.
muted.
Exactly. So people don't understand when we talk about the value chain. Transportation, that's a whole segment of agriculture. That's a whole segment of the agriculture sector. I'm now in Costco with wifey, with John. Okay, alternative, no problem, John. No problem, John. No, yeah, happy wife, happy life, my man. We don't want you. We don't want the wife yelling at you. No, but enjoy. Say hi to the wife, and you guys enjoy your day. Yeah. So the agriculture is a value chain. So the person who's planting, he's just one chain. He's one link in the chain. The guy who's providing the transportation, even the man he's just providing tools. The hoe, the rake, the cutlass, the slashing iron. He's in the sector, but he's part of the chain. So your job is to go to all those farmers, find those farmers, carry your pickup there and say, my man, you want to buy cutlass today, you want to buy a hoe today, or you want to buy tapia iron, you want to buy this. You bring in tools to help them in the sector. Because
Yes.
you don't want them leaving the farm and coming to kind of look for tools. So you're on the contract,
Yeah.
whenever you want cutlass, just call me, I will deliver it.
I'll bring
You're
it to you. I'll bring you raincoat, rain boots. I'll bring it to you. That's it. That's the only
You're
contribution to
part,
the farm.
you're part of the chain.
Mm.
So again, this thing requires teaching. It requires understanding. And when you don't have understanding, guess what? No one has the confidence to invest the money. This thing, again, that's what I'm saying. If you have a strategic plan, then that plan, you can look at the different parts of the plan. And then people will invest in different parts of the plan so that the output will be something that would transform the country. It would create jobs. It will industrialize. Even the electricity sector. Energy plays an important role in the value chain of agriculture. Why? Because energy runs all the machines. Energy runs all the computer systems and everything else that will help the processing guy to sell their products on the internet. You get my point. The airport
Mhm.
plays a very important role. The seaport plays a very important role. How will you export?
Because they are
How will you
transport
export?
point. Yeah,
That's
they are
exactly right.
transport
So
point.
they are all part of the sector. So, like in Ghana, Ghana created a whole agricultural export hub at the Kotoka airport for their bananas, for their citrus, for all of those things. They had to create a whole agro hub just for that. Their pineapples. So you can't just bring it to the terminal to Ralphie and say, "Oh, Aquino can export pineapples." No, that's a whole separate investment that has to be made to support that. So that, as Mr. Dwight Pope was saying, when the cargo plane comes to load up with the pineapples, those pineapples will be processed where? Not through the terminal, but through the agro hub. You
Alcohol.
get my
Yeah.
point? And
Mm.
that agro hub, you got to run it with 24/7 electricity. You got to keep it cool because the produce has to be
AC. Yeah.
cool. That's exactly
Mhm.
right.
Mm.
That's why electricity energy plays an important role. So again, the value chain, you got different links in the chain. So you got you got electrical engineers in agriculture. You got data and IT technicians in the agriculture sector. You got agronomists in the agriculture sector. You got accountants in the agriculture because again, every company, you got to run your financial records to make sure that you're
Mm.
not losing, but you're investing, getting a return.
Yeah, and
You see,
you getting response from it.
that's exactly right. So every discipline, you got sales and marketing people in the agriculture sector. Everybody, I mean, every chain, every link in the chain needs a certain number of human expertise that would play a role. That's why it's important to have a strategic plan as a nation, as a people, to make sure that this agriculture sector is holistic. Is that we call it an ecosystem.
Mm.
It's like a swamp. You go in the swamp, the water is there, the frogs are there, the birds come to eat the frog eat the flies eat the mosquitoes. It's a whole ecosystem, everybody living together. That's what agriculture is. It's an ecosystem. So if you don't truly understand it, then you would bring in 250 tractors. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. That's not what I'm saying. But you would bring in 250 tractors, then you have him set into place the other parts of that system so that those 250 tractors can truly transform the agriculture sector of the country.
Mm.
You get my point? Because you got to go to
Yeah, of course.
MVTC, you got to go to BWI, you got to go to Don Bosco and get the heavy duty technicians, graduates from there, and train them and place them in all the county seats where those tractors will be so that they will be the people who will do what? To service, to repair those
Yeah.
tractors.
Mm.
That's an important component. They can't do it in the ring, so that means you're gonna have to come and build,
Get
put up the
shelter.
building. That's exactly right.
Mm.
You're gonna have to put up those buildings. Then they need tools. They can't work with their hands. They need tools. Look, okay, to prove my point, what did Mittal Steel do? Didn't Mittal Steel build her own vocational training school to teach her own technicians to work on her mine?
To work on their machines. Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So
Why
to
you
for
think
the
they
breakdown
didn't?
be difficult. So they need to order the parts and they got people there to do it.
And I think that was a bad idea because right there in Buchanan, you have what? You have the Grand Bassa County Community College. So why
College.
didn't
Yeah.
Mita invest in the school to build the training center in the school?
Yeah. And take it from the
That's the
site and
point.
bring it in the
That's
school.
exactly
And
right.
you're being empowering more Liberians,
That's
more
exactly
Liberians. Even
right.
if you don't take all of them, but they will go in other sector
They will
to
go in
work.
other sectors that will
To
support the
work.
mining industry. That's exactly
Sure.
right.
Yes.
You
Yes.
see, so again, I mean, this thing it requires thinking. You can't just look at one piece. You got to look at the entire value chain, and every segment of the chain plays a very important role, from the input to the output. And this is where we're challenged as a people, as a nation. And that's the reason why, as old as we are, we've got nothing to show for it. We've got nothing to show because we don't think strategically. We don't think holistically. We always think in a fragmented way. We want, not, I mean, I'm not saying bringing the machines is a bad idea, but you need to put into place the systems and the processes and place the people strategically so that when the machines come in, you move them to those areas. Those people are already trained, they're ready because, again, those machines go on running hours. After a certain amount of hours of running, they have to be cleaned, overhauled, filtered, the diesel, the hydraulic. There's hydraulics. And in hydraulics, the oil, the quality, the cleaning of the oil, the cleanliness of the oil is the efficiency of the system.
Mhm.
Then you got the diesel fuel, like I was saying, you're gonna have to save it. Then you got potential for theft and stealing it. Have you put those systems into place? Then you're gonna have to schedule sending so again, agriculture is a very, very important part of our economy. And we as a people, we really haven't looked at it holistically. So I mean, if you're listening to the show, please feel free to call in, put a comment on from Facebook. If you're listening on the air across Monrovia, across Dwazon to Kakata to Bombing, across Monrovia, pick up the phone, call us on the show. John, can I say, put the phone numbers up there so people can hear the numbers and they can call in again. We welcome your call. We've got a couple of more minutes to go.
We are part of the time, so that take the 5 more minutes
Okay.
to
Okay.
to
Well, let me just do my closing. So thank you so much again, once again, to everyone who listened to the show today, participated in the show today. All of the comments that came in, John Moyu, Jusu Hassan, Afri Boo, Suba Freeman, Dwight Port. Thank you so much for participating in the show today. Ophelia Williams watching from Houston, Texas. Thank you so much for participating. Rufus T. Delbo, Daniel Alpha, Abraham Kamara, Richard Moore. We just want to say, Shadi Saleh, thank you so much, and Ambassador Maurice Serion. Thank you so much for participating and talking, engaging in this lively discussion about the agricultural value chain for our country, for our nation, for our people, for its economic growth, development, and most importantly, job creation for the young people of this country who represent almost 75 to 80% of the population, who are
sure.
also the biggest voting bloc of this country. So if the young people of this country do not get what they need in terms of job creation to improve their lives, you can imagine what will happen at the polls in 4 years' time. So agriculture is so important. And I think we as Liberians, both in the diaspora and at home in the private sector, we truly need to engage in the agriculture sector. I think it's the best segment of our economy for us to invest in. We've got over $800 million of remittance money coming into this economy every year. And this money is being spent in the agriculture sector. Why? For food. And if we cannot grow our food and we're depending on the importations, then we're not a secured nation. The more we invest in the agricultural sector, that means we're investing in food security, which is a national security issue. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for participating. Have a great weekend. From my family to each of you out there, be blessed, stay safe, and we'll catch you next week on Business Talk on Love TV, Love FM, Monrovia. Have a great and
Thanks.
outstanding day.
Thanks so much, and we hope to be with you on next Saturday, the first Saturday in the month of July. Wow, July, the second month in the year 2025. Again, you can catch us on Saturday for Business Talk, 2 to 4 o'clock. Rufus Define Khan going to be here on Saturday. The name is John Kessler. Have yourself a wonderful rest of the Saturday. Keep listening to our broadcast on this radio.